Hello and welcome to a nice rainy day in the colder cities, Seattle, in a return to a classic game that I suppose probably does, here and there got the credit. Mostly lives with the legacy of the end of a franchise, to be honest. The infamous, climb up there. Infamous Second Son, an open world hero or villain adventure, strong story based game. So it was a flagship game for the PlayStation 4 to showcase the graphics and really push us to the the next generation. So it was a big next gen game. Again, we're in the next gen now, or the next of the next gen. But it was a quality piece of work. It had certain issues, but it had plenty of positives. So the multitude of powers. So you had 4 different powers. So you had your neon, where you could run around, run up buildings, chuck some bombs, just do a sniping, slow-mo, throw grenades. Then you had the mainstay, controlling ash and smoke, which was kind of like not fire, but sort of fire. Then you've got neon. I mean, not neon. That's neon. I started with neon. Video, which is you could summon like angels or demons if you're evil. Again, the powers change the way they look. I said that the color gradient shifts depending on good or evil. So you have more of a red, a stronger red with the ash and smoke, and a paler red with good versus evil. And then you have red for video powers. Okay, let's go. So the strengths of the game. Combat was good. It was similar to previous infamous games where you aim and shoot. So it's like a shooting game. You do have your melee but again, you're always better off just shooting, running and gunning, moving, dodging. And you had the screen sort of, going dark when you were dying and all that sort of stuff. You had your parkour, which is simplified in this. It's not really... I mean, it's... yeah. I mean, it's not Assassin's Creed simplified, where you just hold one button and it does it all, but you just basically tap one button and it does it all. So it's quite similar. Cut up here. You had your whole enemy evil organization that were kidnapping all the special people and locking them up in a prison, and actually it was to protect them from society, but it seemed like it was to protect society from them, but actually you had the whole convoluted story, or not too convoluted, to be honest. You had your main character here, who was a young dude who was either drunk with power or trying to be a hero, or either way sort of drunk with power. And he couldn't get in cars because they would instantly blow up if he got in them. So again, they try to justify a few creative decisions with some sort of character setup. So things like... oh, I'm getting shot at. So your character can't swim, so they sort of justified that with, you know, it's his abilities and stuff. And it's just kind of, there's some cut corners, which is fine. I understand you don't need to add swimming. Swimming was always a big issue. Not a big issue, a weakness in the previous Infamous games, where your character would die instantly if they touched water, because he was electric. So that sort of had some sort of, you know, it made some sort of sense, but still, you know, he could control his abilities. But yeah. But you know, it's a typical action game. You're battling lots of bad guys. You're the hero. You have to save people, choose who lives and dies. And with Infamous, the style is that you have, you know, good and evil. So you could be evil, you could be good. In this playthrough, I'm pure good. You could be in the middle, but there's really no value to that. Because your skill tree, I'll show you the skill tree. Okay. So your skill tree specializes in things that are, you know, good parts, and then you got the evil parts. So you need evil karma for those. So your karma system, you know, could do good things, help people, builds up quickly, and if you do bad things, kill people, it, you know, goes evil quickly. So one of the things you could do early on is just farm karma, and then you could, you know, you have access to all the abilities pretty quickly. But again, you don't get all the different kinds of abilities. You get them through the story. So you meet the neon lady and you steal her ability, or you copy it, and you meet the video boy and you copy his ability, and then you get the final ability, which is rock lobster. So you can become a rock. But the world's always looked nice. I'll show you the map. So the map was interesting. Why do I keep doing that? Zoom out. So you had the two islands connected by the two bridges, so you had like the easier zone and then you go to the harder zone. And you had like territories you can take over and you get attack outposts and things. All that stuff was okay. Nothing amazing there really. But it's a great game in it, you know, leading the next gen. You know, this is heavily updated version, so it wasn't performing quite as it is now on release, you know, but still pretty close. And this is on a PS5 and it is a PS4 game, so again you get that sort of difference there. Whee! But yeah, you had the power fantasy, which is, I suppose, the big part of, you know, any hero game, to be frank, is you become more powerful, you become, you know, like a god, basically, and you control who lives and dies, and you have a massive impact on the world, and there's a whole bunch of, you know, collectible side mission stuff. And it's so dark I can barely see where I'm going. I missed it. So if you land in water, you have to teleport out of water. So it's not that it killed you, it just sort of held you back. Oh. Okay. Alright, let's go back. So yeah, it was a great game. Is it worth buying now? If you never played it, I think it really depends. So if you played the first two Infamous games as Cole McGrath, and you got the whole, there are much better stories in the first one. The second one, you can argue, but I don't know. So if you played them, you'd be predispositioned to lightning powers, of course. So this game doesn't have traditional lightning powers, but it has neon, which is lightning, but not lightning. It's kind of, you know, there's a lot of nuance here where you could pick apart the smaller details. Your brother is like your sort of father figure, sort of helper, and if you go evil, you know, he treats you like crap because you deserve it, and then if you're good, he's, you know, good as well, but he still sticks by you. So I don't know, I feel like so much of the game, people have a sort of lingering madness, or I was okay. It's because the main guy is actually not that, he's not likable. Sometimes he is, and sometimes he's just... Most of the time he's not. And of course when you're evil, you're evil. But he's not... Cole McGrath in the first two was a much more likable character, especially in the first game, because he was more complicated. Second one, he's a bit different, and you choose which girl you like, and basically get powers, certain powers, depending on which girlfriend you date. Which is pretty funny. But in this, I suppose the Neon Lady's probably a better character. The Video Boy is pretty average. Oh, there's the cops again. I'll just shoot him. Shows the powers. So it's got the whole stupid grey screen thing, which I find really just so annoying. Okay, that's good. And there's really no punishment for death. Except, in a mission and stuff. But it's not like that kind of game. It is a... Whee! So the Neon running around is the best, I think. So... Oh, wait. I can grab that, can't I? Is there a thing? No, there isn't. Damn it. Oh, there is one there. So this is one of the first games to embrace really the touchpad on the controller. To do like you... Whee! So I've got wings. How cool is that? Wings. Chicken wings. So the depth of the world is quite... I didn't really think the collectibles are that interesting, most of them. You can't go in a lot of buildings, naturally, because it's open world city games and those don't like to have people go inside buildings. You don't really have your own apartment you customize, or I feel like your stake in the world is always the issue, because you are from somewhere else and you come here for a purpose. But the majority of the story is weak, and then at the end you have the that evil lady isn't as evil as you thought, and you still, do you kill her or not decision. So it's stand in the light. So yeah, it's a weird game. I feel like, thinking back, I'm like, do I recommend people play it? It's like, I don't know. I mean, it's been a while. It still does some things right. Combat's all pretty reasonable. You can shoot and run and jump and fly and all sorts of stuff, but it's... I don't know, the story's not particularly uplifting either way. Your impact on the world is kind of debatable, whether or not you're actually of any value. It's like the grander forces in the world at play, you have no impact on them. So there is this is all because of what happened in the first and second Infamous games, but it's not really anything major. You're a small part. Okay, so you're not a huge player in this, so you don't become a god of the new world type situation. So I feel like that kind of localization of the story and lack of grand sort of impact takes away a bit. But I suppose it does suit the character, because he's not really that kind of character. But that's where the difference is. The likableness of the character, the gravity of the story. So the gravity in Infamous 1 was really good. You're solving the mystery, and it was presented in a different sort of way. But Infamous 2, you had in a different setting, and it had its own different environments and sort of creative enemy types and things like that. It had its own atmosphere and feel, and the atmosphere here is, I don't know, it just isn't as strong as the previous titles. Really, that's really the comparison, is the world itself, the feeling you have in the world. You're an outsider, but it doesn't, I don't know, And at times the world doesn't feel alive. And even though there's people driving cars around and walking the streets and stuff. And I mean, early on, when you're saving people, it's okay. And people are running scared of you. If you're evil, they all run away. I suppose that's the thing. But I don't know. It doesn't feel like, it's not Spider-Man game. All right. So it doesn't have that thing going for it, even though you have better powers than Spider-Man for the most part. It's just not really iconic. I think it sort of hurt itself by having the different powers. So instead of focusing purely on your Ash power and maximizing that, you've got split attention. So you've got Video and Neon, and then at the end Rock, and it's like, well, what is this dude's power? This is just stealing other people's powers, and it is really. Because he stole the Ash power from another guy. But it's, I don't know, it's limiting. Instead of being, maybe you can mix them together. Maybe you can mix Neon and Video. They're very similar powers, honestly. Neon, Video, and Ash. Mix them all together and make like a big power tornado thing. And like destroy half the city. And when you're evil, you destroy the whole city. And like it levels it. You don't really get that sort of chance to impact the world in that way. And then you got your parkour, which is just a bit, you sort of climb surfaces that you think, yeah, I could climb that maybe. It's very underwhelming. And you rely on it a lot early game, and then start to develop your your movement abilities a bit better, and then you don't need it so much. And then you just completely avoid it with, Video and Neon. So it's like they didn't want to do the parkour as much. They didn't really think that was a positive thing to invest in. Which, again, lots of games have gone that direction. Assassin's Creed, making it streamlined and making it less of a puzzle to climb and more of it's just a chore for people, make it easy for them. Which, there's a fine line. I can understand that you'd want to go away from the difficulty of climbing and go towards the fun and stuff. I can't remember what button to press. There it is. But yeah, so you had your collectibles that increases your max power, and you had all that sort of stuff. Basic stuff that, Infamous series sort of just rehashes. Different styles. The I think the music's okay. It fits the game. I think that's fine. I gotta give you some more light here, because I feel like I'm only in dark areas, but if I go down to street level, I just get shot a lot, so. Raining is okay. The sound of the rain on the glass, meh. Sounds are all okay, because they have, different abilities, and they're all interesting in their own way. But again, back to specializing. If you had it focused on one power, you could have had the tree develop in that way. You could have integrated its aspects of the other abilities into Ash. I think that would have been. I feel like it's okay to have one power. You don't need to have multiple different ones. So it kind of takes away from the, what do you know this character for? What do you know him for? And it's like, well, he's got all these different powers. Instead of being, you know him for his Ash ability, and he can make giant smoke clouds that engulf the whole city and melt people's skin or something and obliterate the bad guys. And, there's so much more you can do with one power when you focus on one power, as opposed to splitting your focus. But it's still, it's a great game. I mean, at the time it was released, it was really big deal. Not as big a deal as that. Maybe the marketing, I think, was another aspect of it. They released it with the console, and you had like those skin things for the console. Whee! But because I suppose most of your And this stupid thing when you freaking, whenever you're dying, it plays this stupid music tone and gives the whole screen being all like fuzzy and that. God, it's not good. It's not good. I think that's probably one of the complaints I have about, you know, Grand Theft Auto 5 is that the death, you know, grayness of the screen and all that is actually really shit. And it comes way too early. Like, it auto spawns you. It should give you the choice of respawning sometimes. So you can see your corpse roll down a hill. Okay, here we go. This is a good spot. Colors. The colors are strong. Again, you have sort of a heavy contrast because your abilities are also bright for the most part. So they want them to stand out, which I think is totally reasonable. Yeah. So that's my summon angel thing, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, I feel like it's, you know, people have talked about it a lot, but I just wanted to add my 2 cents. I really enjoyed it when I played it, but I did feel lacking in terms of the main character. I didn't like him. Good or evil. Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's a great game or it's a good game or it's an average game. I think it can be all three. But it's important to look at the, you know, the past and look where games have come from, and I mean, it doesn't look bad at all in this lighting, of course. You could have used more likable characters. You could have used more impact on the world and a grander world. So I think the big part is the boss, the enemy is this lady, and she's like in charge of a prison, locks up all the special people. But I feel like you could have. That's where they made their mistake, and that's kind of like they were stuck with that, and that's kind of where they had nowhere to go. So they needed a grander boss. Needed a ginormous, like you fight her in a giant rock form, but it's not really that big. Could be bigger. I think it is weighed down a lot by its predecessors. So Infamous 2, you had ginormous bosses, and they're great, you know, different atmosphere, different environment. And then Infamous 1, you had the really good city and the great, I think the weight. It was, you know, a big game for PlayStation 3. It was really the feature game, the first big next-gen game. And so, you know, Infamous Second Son carries on that legacy, but it doesn't really carry it on. It sort of just lets it down. Visually, yeah, maybe, but it's just, yeah, a totally different feeling, especially with the impact of the little story cutscenes in Infamous 1 with the animation, with the, like a comic strip style, which really sort of bought into the hero story and, you know, hero backstory, and that they were really powerful. And then the voice acting, I think, was really good, and one of the really strong elements. The main guy did a really, really good job. And then in the second game, you know, it's less impactful, but it still had good decision making and the good versus evil type thing, and the world was interesting because it was a different Louisiana thing. It was not Louisiana, New Orleans. So it was, yeah, New Orleans, which hadn't been done very often in games except for a couple of times, but it was just something different, and it was a different world, and not as focused on tall buildings, but more on just the atmosphere and the difference, and the character of the world was really strong. But the character of this world is not strong. It still has its, you know, it still has its flavor, but it's just not, I don't know, it's not particularly memorable. I like, you know, what I remember from this game, thinking back before, as I was installing it, I'm like, yeah, the main character's sort of annoying. And the bad lady's just pretty average. I mean, she's actually good in her own way. You know, she's trying to do the right thing. So but it's not like they need, you need to have a grand evil to fight or become the grand evil. There was no, blowing up the whole city or, some bomb thing or some, it was just, the gravity was just not there. It didn't have the bigness. It was in your character's story, and he wasn't an appealing enough character to really carry that sort of narrative all the way through to make you go, oh, I'll play this game again. It's just, you played the game, you beat it. And I played it on good and evil, so I did two simultaneous saves, and I progressed them at the same. I'd do one mission with one, and then I'd do the same mission with the other, or do it in a different way, because good versus evil. So I played through it twice, effectively, going through it. And that was, more than enough, and I was done. There's really no reason to come back once you beat it. And then if you didn't play the first two, maybe it's a different feeling, because more original, I suppose, because you wouldn't be comparing it to the predecessors, which is, yeah, you do that. So if you never played Infamous 1 and 2 on old PlayStation 3, you can play Infamous Second Son. Very cheap game. So one of the things that's, part of PlayStation Plus. So it won't cost you much or anything really to get it and play it. And it has value, and then it's sort of, underwhelming conclusion. And underwhelming sort of character. Yeah, underwhelming MC. Main character. Whee! Where are my lobster powers? Or is this just before the final mission? Okay, let's load a different save. I just want to be able to tell. No, it's fine. Okay, does it tell me if they're good or evil? Yes, here we go. So I just want to show you evil. Many people claim to be tyrant of those with superpowers, but few would want their daughter to date one. Infamous. So in evil you get, and then you summon demons. You're red. And everyone's screaming, don't hurt me. And you get a lot of protesters on the street when you're evil, so they're all complaining about... See, there they are there. Alright, let's go with some neon. So it's a more vibrant, sort of reddish pink when you're in neon. I'm just beating everyone up. It's more evil. And the city's more unruly. These are my streets. So yeah, lots of screaming people. Lots of heavy contrasting colour so that your powers stand out more. Oh, the water nearly got me. Alright, can I go find some ash? There we go. So you notice how much more red it is. Now, how can I get rock lobster powers? Rock lobster powers. I can't remember how to get them. But yeah. So this is what it looks like in Twilight. You can't change the time of day. One of the great things about, I think it was Infamous 1 and 2, is when you beat the game you could change the time of day, which was something you can't do in this, but maybe you can. Maybe I'm missing the... I've forgotten how to do it, maybe. But yeah, it's one of the great options. You need it in these sorts of games, open world games. In particular, you have to be able to control the different lighting, especially for photo mode and that sort of stuff. But yeah. We stare in the distance. Yeah, this has been Frosty Fire 10. Just talking, trying to describe my feelings about Infamous Second Son. Guys, I'm having an emotional moment here. Bugger off. I'm busy having an emo moment. Okay. So yeah, I'd like you to, like and subscribe and all that jargon, but just leave a comment. What do you think of Infamous Second Son? Did you think it was do you think they killed the series with it? Or was it like a good game you liked it wasn't too grand, too epic? They just sort of focused on one man's journey. Him and his brother. The consequences of your actions. Good or evil. People. Yeah, emotional moment. Yeah. What would you have done? I think, say we do another Infamous. Where do they go next? Do you make your own character? Which city do you pick? I certainly want more grand. I want it to be, if anything, you could do a cyberpunk world and you have like buildings that 150 stories tall type situation. Or like a Fifth Element style city, where it's so tall that down below you can barely see anything. And you could start in the fog and the smog and the trash that is the bottom part of it and work your way up the city as it's so incredibly high. I don't know why games don't do that more often. But yeah, tell me all about it. I'll respond. Alright. Guys, you're spoiling my moment! Yeah, this has been Frosty Fire 10, reflecting on Infamous Second Son. Hopefully you made some sense of my ramblings. I'm still trying to make sense of my feelings. Because it is, ultimately, every game experience comes back to how you feel, how it hit you, how it impacted you, whether it didn't impact you, what sort of emotions stirred within you. And yeah, whether you can articulate them or not doesn't bother me too much. It's just trying to articulate them that matters. Yeah. I'll see you on the other side. Whee! See ya.